Hi, good evening, guys. Dr. Rebecca here. I'll give it a second for everyone to join us. Dr. Nathan will be joining us too. And I'm really excited that he's joining us as well because I think he'll give you a really good perspective from a father's point of view during our birthing process. So, welcome. The reason why we wanted to do this Facebook Live is because it's a pretty stressful time to be pregnant right now. So I've heard. I am not pregnant. This is a disclaimer. But it's kind of a tough time, and we're getting a lot of questions from people online, people that we're coaching, people are sending us messages, just really concerned about what it's going to be like to give birth during a time like this. And so I just wanted to share with everyone our personal birth experience. I wanted to share what we did to prepare. I wanted to share my experience. So this is very helpful and very applicable, whether this is your first birth or whether this is your fourth birth. Just this world right now is really crazy. And so I want to give some words of encouragement. I want to give some words of hope. I want to give some homework for the ladies out there that are expecting, what you can start doing to start protecting your mind and preparing yourself for this birth. And so welcome, guys. Dr. Nathan will be joining us. I know people are coming in and out here, and I'm making sure that I can see y'all. If you see me looking down, I'm just making sure that I can see when you guys ask me questions or anything like that. So again, let me go ahead. I'm just getting you guys ready here. And all right, let's get started. So again, Dr. Nathan's going to be joining us. He's going to share his personal experience. There'll be some little funny parts of our story, but I did have 2 home births. And so whether you're planning a hospital birth or a home birth, I can't stress enough preparing. And it's really interesting because when I shared how I prepared for my home birth, a lot of women felt just not comfortable that I was doing that, because they would say stuff like, well, you can't prepare for your birth. You know, I prepared for my birth and this happened, and you can't hold on to ideas. You can't have birth plans because something could happen. But that wasn't my job. I hired for both births a birth team that I trusted, a team whose job is to consider the what ifs. My team wasn't waiting around for red flags. They were looking for yellow flags. And so because I had midwives, midwife assistant, doula, and my husband, who is a doctor and chiropractor, I wasn't concerned with the what ifs. I thought about the what ifs when it was time to make this team together. I wanted people that respected what I needed, that respected how I wanted my birth to go, but also was very knowledgeable, and they were going to be concerned with those things. Once I established my birth team, anything bad or negative was outside of my mind. Now, I want to make sure you guys understand why I did that, because I have sat down with many women as they prepare for their births. I meet with them at the beginning, and I meet with them in the second trimester, and I meet with them in the third trimester just to really encourage them. And what I find is that a lot of times, because there's a lot of unknown at the end of our pregnancy journey, we don't think about it. There's the nursery, and then there's the showers, and then the figuring this out and being new parents or adding another kid into the family. And what I find is that a lot of people don't sit and think about what it's actually going to look like the day your baby comes. And that's a really big deal, because this is what I think in my head. We have athletes, okay, that like visualize throwing a basketball into a hoop. They practice it over and over and over again, and it's stinking basketball. We have business people that are just killing it as entrepreneurs that focus on, doing something and being successful. One thing we know, whether it's in sports, whether it's in business, whether it's healing spiritually, whether it's even in the scriptures, your mind has power. And if you do not work on your mind, it will affect your birth. Birth is not just a physical thing. Birth is a physical, spiritual, mental, emotional process. It's not just pushing a baby out, but it's how you feel. How you feel makes a big difference. In the book, Childbirth Without Fear, and if you guys get the book, the front cover looks a little like crazy because there's a woman just screaming on the front. But it's a really cool book because it's written by an OBGYN that practiced in the 30s. And he talked about, there was even, medical books, like books in medical school that talked about that when a woman was uncomfortable, back then, he said that a male doctor wouldn't even walk into the room unless the mother was comfortable, because they acknowledge the fact that if a mother feels uncomfortable, not only can she stall her labor, but they notice that if they dilate it, they can go backwards. So I say all of this because how you feel matters. If you feel comfortable matters. And let me go ahead and tell you guys this. I'm an emotional, feely person. I mean, someone walks by me with a bad attitude, I got a bad attitude. My kids wear me out for 15 minutes. I'm going to think about it all day long. So for me, it had to take practice. I didn't just wait till 10 months to say, okay, now I'm going to birth this baby. Yes, I think birth is absolutely natural. You're created to do it. You have all the strength and power within you. But number one, we haven't been around a lot of births. In modern day America, we don't get to see like our family members give birth. We don't help other women within our neighborhood give birth. So we don't experience a lot of it. And then what you don't understand, there's a lot of underlying messages that you get from your own doctor to TV shows to movies. I mean, look at the word labor. I mean, labor sounds horrible. Like labor, like I think about construction workers lifting up heavy cement, like the worst thing in the world. Childbirth isn't easy, it's hard, but good, transformative, powerful things come out of hard things. And so the first thing, right now in the midst of everything, you guys can't ignore whether, even if there is this pandemic going on or not, you can't ignore your feelings and your worries and your concerns. So what I had to do for both my births that were just, it transformed my experience for both of them, is whatever my fears were, I leaned into them and I processed them and I addressed them. And so if you've ever spoken to me about birth, right off the bat, I did hypnobabies, not hypnobirthing, I did babies. And one thing I really love about hypnobabies, and I don't know, I will never birth another baby without hypnobabies. I'm just so thankful I was exposed to it when I had Elijah. But one thing that hypnobabies does, it's a 6-week program and then there's maintenance that you can do with it. One thing that hypnobabies does is it makes you work on your mind. I mean, it makes you re-educate your mind. Again, like when you think about any birth in a movie, what comes to mind immediately? First thing that comes to mind, screaming and yelling and hurting and horrible and this is horrible. And you see it. There's always a complication. There's something that goes wrong. And so what Hypnobabies does, here he is. This will be funny. He can talk about his Hypnobabies experience. But what Hypnobabies did is it created in me, every week I had to work on underlying thoughts that I had, fears, like worries. I mean, sometimes I would wake up in the night and I'm like, oh my gosh, something's going to come out of me, whether I'm ready for it or not. And then I would I'd put on the Hypnobabies music or think about my affirmations that, yeah, a baby's going to come out of me, whether I want it to or not, which means my body's going to know how to push. My body's going to guide me. Like, yeah, it's going to be maybe uncomfortable sometimes, maybe difficult in some other places, but my body actually knows what to do. I was created for this. And so that's how my thought process would work during my pregnancy. That's really important right now. I want to mention a few other things that Hypnobabies did. It changed the language of birth for me. If you've ever again heard me speak about birth, I don't say labor. I say your birthing time. I don't say contractions. I say your pressure waves. And I can tell you this, When I visualized and I used pressure waves so many times that when it was time for me to push my babies out, that's what I pictured. Every time I had a pressure wave, I could see myself riding the wave and it was peaking and coming back down. And so I really think, guys, I think you can start hypnobabies in 28 weeks, or 22 weeks. And then the latest you can start is 32 weeks. So if you're under 32 weeks, get hypnobabies. Get it right now in the midst of this chaos. You want to take 45 minutes to an hour. And I get it. Like, wait, how am I going to have that time? Listen, I had a toddler and I had a business and I was coaching people. And he knew at like 7 or 8 o'clock, I was in the tub and I was listening to my hypnobabies because I had to protect my mindset. So right now there's a lot of uncertainty and there's a lot of fear. You have to stop listening to the news. You have to stop reading crap online. Delete your social media. You have to protect your mind. In hypnobabies, they talk about your bubble of peace, meaning there's a bubble that protects you and doesn't, you don't let negativity come at you. Again, I'm not asking you to be naive. I want you to lean into your fears. I want to process it. What are you afraid of? Like, what are you nervous of? You got to process it, give it up to God, and then think about a new affirmation, So 2 home births. I guess we'll talk about our home birthing. So
yeah,
what did you think?
I'm only laughing because, like, I remember when Dr. Rebecca first told me about hypnobabies, and I'm like, this sounds like a bunch of woo-woo weirdness. I'm like, are we seriously going to do this? And anyway, I'll put it this way. Number one, when she would listen to it in bed, she'd listen to her hypnobabies in bed, and I'm not kidding you. I would be out in like 3 minutes. It was probably the best I've ever been able to go to sleep in my entire life. But then what I started to realize is really what it is it's a sense of affirming, right? And putting, positive phrases and words that trigger a mindset, right? And that trigger a mindset of, again, feeling positive, feeling powerful, feeling, that you can do it, that your body is created and designed to be able to do this. And again, so I actually started being like, wow, this is actually pretty incredible. Like, they should make a hypnobabies for every area of life for different things. But again, it's because, again, it's using the power of a mindset, right? And I'll never forget when you first told me to, guys, we literally first started dating, and this woman made me watch The Business of Being Born. Like, I'm talking like 2 weeks into even just getting to know each other. So, it really, really works well.
So I was told by a midwife that I was a cripple because I had a C-section in the past. Whoa. Yeah, so this is what
a horrible use of words. Too.
Yeah.
Man.
So this is what I tell people when I coach them with thyroid, when I coach them towards healing their gut or they've been in chronic pain. And I'm going to say the same thing with your birth. It's that if someone that you are looking to hire, you are hiring a midwife, you are hiring a doctor, you are hiring a nurse practitioner, you are hiring them. If they are not aligned with your goals, with your beliefs, then you fire them.
Yeah.
You do not allow anyone to disrespect what your goals are and what you're working towards. But I say this because I'm not saying like go shopping around, like you're trying to save money. If a doctor has experience in natural births, in breech births, if they have experience with breastfeeding, if they went to a college where a professor was passionate about it, how they practice will be very, very, very different than someone that's never had experience in that. So what I'm encouraging you is to not be discouraged. To not be discouraged if you don't have the right birth team just yet, or if these doctors or midwives say this, because you can find someone that will empower you and that will walk alongside you and protect you in the process. Just don't settle. And some of you guys, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you this, some of you guys have chosen a provider just out of convenience, and you're not quite sure if they're going to respect the idea that you have in your mind.
Yeah.
you deserve to look for a team that's going to walk alongside you. And so again, what you want to do is you want to protect your mind. I mean, I had people with, Elijah's birth that wanted to tell me their horror stories. And I was like, I really appreciate that. But that's right now, I don't think I can hear that right now. Or I got
she
to a
was
point.
Nicer than me.
Yeah, he would just have me leave. Yeah. He would just have, because it mattered. Again, don't be naive about the possibilities that some things might not go to plan. But that's why you hire a good team. Mm-hmm. Right now, I know there's a lot of, I think here in Chattanooga, Erlanger, even though they have a lot of coronavirus there, I think they're allowing a partner and a doula there. So I think that's what I read before I got on this live. And it might be different at the hospital that you're nearby, but I wonder if Hypnobabies will help with that. Yes. Okay, so Hypnobabies, I mean, heck, I still use Hypnobabies, like, if I'm like, I don't know, like I'm stressed out or something, I still use it. So let me explain something about Hypnobabies. It's not this magic thing that's going to make you invincible. It's also not that you have to be this quiet woman during birth. It's not that you don't, struggle sometimes. I have people that are like, oh, I did Hypnobabies and I was still loud and it was crazy and I still felt stuff, but your mindset was different. Mm-hmm. That's what I loved about Hypnobabies, and that's why I did it, because my mindset was different. Right now, when you're nervous about, giving birth at a hospital and the possibility that people, are there and they're sick and there's chaos and everything like that, if you're choosing to have that hospital birth, then you have to protect your mindset leading into there. Because the best way I explain this is this. We are animals, okay? And animals in nature, they don't question. Anna Mae Gaskin, she had a quote like this and it blew my mind. Animals, when they go out to give birth in nature, they don't question their ability to give birth. They give birth. There isn't an elephant that says, whoa, 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 I can't do this. This hurts. There isn't, a giraffe that just says, hey, I'm not giving birth. But there is something that will stop them from giving birth, and that's danger. Every animal on this planet, when it senses through its hypothalamus, I don't know if animals have hypothalamus, but we do, but an animal will sense in its environment that something is wrong and they will not give birth, because you don't want to give birth in an environment that's not safe.
Well, because all your body's thinking about is
survival.
Get the heck away, right?
Yeah.
Stress, means flee, like fight or flight. So
yeah, absolutely. So what you want to do is you want to have the birth team in place. You want to put your mind and prepare your mind to be in the state to be protected. And again, I love Hypnobabies because, well, let me go ahead and tell you guys this, okay? I'm about to call out Dr. Nathan here. So Hypnobabies has a lot of really great resources for dads, okay? I think they even have their own track, and they have a chapter in the book. There's stuff for them to read. Homeboy over here didn't have time for it, right? And so leading up to the birth, I made him a cheat sheet. And so there's affirmations in there where, they give you some cues. Like when I think about an orange light, I think about pain relief, right? When I drop my finger, I can relax, like because of Hypnobabies. And so he had heard her audio and what she says half asleep, because every time I turned on the audio, he would fall asleep. And every night I would listen to it, he would fall asleep to my Hypnobabies. Well, when it was time for me to give birth, he did not prepare for it, right? Like he didn't know what he was doing. And so I'm in the zone. And so in Hypnobabies, they tell partners or your doula that they can touch your head or they can touch your shoulder, and that immediately you practice just releasing all your tension. But he decides that he's going to try to do what she does. And he's like, as I'm in the middle of a pressure wave, as I'm like, pressure wave, I got to focus. He's touching my head and he's like, go deeper and deeper as you float, orange going through your body. Like he's just
using whatever
he's
word.
trying to sound like a yogi or something. And I'm just sitting there like, oh my gosh. I wanted to laugh, but then as soon as my pressure wave was done, I was like, you need to stop. You just need to stop trying to talk to me right now.
But even in the midst of that, she still was able to do it.
I was
even
still able
even
to
though
laugh.
I distracted her the whole time.
Yeah,
I thought I was
so
doing
glad.
it right. I don't know.
So I think a really important thing as you're preparing to give birth in this environment is to protect your mind. Someone telling you that you can't do it, or someone even questioning you, even doubting you, is something that you can harbor in subconsciously. So as Hypnobaby says, you got to create your bubble of peace. You have to protect your mind, and you have to have the right team there to support you.
What a topic to talk about right now. Whether you're pregnant or whether you're not pregnant, I mean, it literally, mindset is everything. Even in this moment of everybody worrying about COVID-19, and again, it's still mindset is still your greatest tool that you have. And the more that you succumb to fear, it doesn't mean that you can't feel that, right? It doesn't mean that you can't.
You can,
that you can't be scared. Those are feelings. But bottom line is the response to those feelings are going to be huge. But I'll tell you this: my experience with what she used, Hypnobabies for, even with my doubts at the beginning, it absolutely blew me away, and it's something I recommend for every single pregnant patient that comes in. And I'll tell you this: I cannot tell you how many countless times I've had mothers that have literally said, after starting this process, where they literally wrote down, hey, this is how my birth is going to be, this is how long that it's going to take, this is how I'm going to feel, this is how I'm going to recover. And it's always like, how did it go? Well, it went exactly like I planned, because, we even had, 2 months ago, we had somebody that was like, nope, I just feel like my birthing time's going to be so fast. And I'm like thinking in my head, well, I hope so, but I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen. And it was almost identical to the amount of time that she set, for herself. And same thing. It was so fast. And again, I was blown away, but I shouldn't have been blown away. Why? Because every single day she was affirming that over and over again.
You work on it every day. Guys, we're running, this is a marathon. This is that thing that's going to transform you physically, emotionally. You have it in you. Hypnobabies, and even if you take a birthing class or use an amazing midwife or doctor, none of it comes outside of you. You have it inside of you. And so all I'm asking you to do is to bring that out.
Yeah.
All I'm asking you to do is to trust that your body knows what to do. Whenever you work against it, that's when it becomes difficult. You don't need someone to tell you how to push. Your body wants the baby out. It's going to come out. You just have to work with your body. And so in all of this, feeling with a lot of the unknown, I want you to trust that you are a parent already, okay? You and your partner, you guys are parents already. You have this child already. You're going to have this child. It's going to be a good experience, even if it's difficult, even if it's hard. Nothing in your whole entire life worth having is easy. Nothing. So I just, what I would recommend is every day focusing on releasing, on letting go. I mean, heck, I think even Joe Dispenza could be helpful in this situation, but focus on releasing and letting go. And again, creating a good birth team. And so I want to share what our home birth was like, because I know some people are considering home births right now. There's a lot of questions and talks about it because some people still don't feel comfortable right now giving birth in a hospital. And so we've had 2 home births. Elijah was born in our home, and then Rosie was too. But let's start with Elijah. Elijah was our first birth. And so I'm going to admit, I didn't do Hypnobabies as recommended. I thought I could, like I used to do in school, just kind of, just do everything at the end. Hypnobabies helped me a ton. But when I really committed my time to it for Rosie's, I saw even better. But with Elijah, it was a home birth. I had a midwife, and so I had fibroids. I had thyroid cancer when I was 19 years old. I had radiation and all these things. And I'm just so thankful that I worked on healing my body before I got pregnant. So I worked on a lot of things, but they didn't discover the fibroids until Elijah. I mean, it was big enough that they thought it was a twin. And I'm like, hold up. We had an ultrasound at that point, and we were like, a twin? We can't have 2 kids. But that was really big because there was a lot of uncertainty. My midwife wasn't very comfortable and didn't know a lot about what the birth would look like with a fibroid. And so I had reached a point kind of at 37 weeks, at 38 weeks, where there was all this uncertainty about how this was going to affect us and how the home birth was going to go. But that's when we had to regroup and just kind of get refocused and know, hey, we're going to have this home birth. We're going to prepare and we're going to keep an eye out on the yellow flag. So I had prodromal waves. So prodromal is, they're harder than Braxton Hicks. Like they feel like your birthing time is about to start. Braxton Hicks are kind of like, they're softer. Prodromal waves, or I think they call them contractions. They're stronger. And the funny thing about birthing, well, if you read about birthing books, I also read the book Guide to Childbirth by Ina May Gaskin. It was amazing. Half of the book is about what happens during birth, and the other half was birth stories. And so it always talks about how if you think it's your birthing time, just wait it out. You can let your partner sleep. And I'll never forget both births. I absolutely hated him because he was just like, "Do you need me? No, okay." And he just like went and
I can literally feel her like burning a hole in my head with
Rosie's
her eyes
birth,
while I'm sleeping.
So Friday for Elijah's birth, he was due. Due dates are just estimates. So he was due around February 16th. He came on the 29th, leap day. I didn't want him to come on the 29th, but by the time the 29th came, I'm like, dude, just come out, right? And so what ended up happening is on Friday, I had these pressure waves, really strong. And I'm just like, ooh, this is it. We closed the office down. We own our clinic. We closed it. So Friday night, I'm feeling it. And so I put on my Hypnobabies. I listen to my music. I listen to her voice. I lay on the couch because I got to let him rest. Baby's coming. And I wake up in the morning and nothing. Okay. Then Friday night, it picked up even more. Saturday night, it picked up even more. And I'm like, okay, this is it. We just laid on the couch. We're like, oh my gosh, baby is coming. Saturday night, he went to sleep and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go lay on the couch and I'm just going to breathe through it. And I go lay on the couch, put on my Hypnobabies. I fall asleep. I wake up, nothing. At this point, I'm so frustrated. And so Sunday night, I don't really I kind of feel stuff and I'm like, whatever. And then 5 a.m. it started getting a little, okay, wow. You know what? I feel like this is strong, but whatever. We're not closing. We close the office 2 different days. We're not going to do this. So I wake up at 5 a.m. and I make myself a little gluten-free sandwich. I make myself a bath and I listen to my Hypnobabies. Angry. I'm just sitting in the tub. 5 a.m. I look out my door. I can see him sleeping. I'm like, this baby's never coming. Guys, it was 41 weeks, 4 days. I could have swore this baby was going to stay inside of me forever. Yeah. And so I come out of the bath. Apparently, just a heads up, if you get in water before you're in active time, in your active birthing time, it can slow down your birth. That's why they recommend waiting till you're about 6 or 7 centimeters. Anyway, so I went to bed. He wakes up. It's like 8:30 in the morning, and he's like, "Hey, do you need me to stay?" I'm like, "No, just go. We're not gonna have a baby."
She said it just like, "Go, just get to the
Just get out." And so he left. And as soon as he left, about within the hour, I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" I got on my exercise ball. I put on my timer, which they say don't ever do that. Don't start tracking it, because you'll just get really stuck up on the time. But I don't listen to people when they say that. So I'm like tracking it. And from 9 to 12, around 11:30, I'm like, oh, this is picking up. Oh no. And so I call him at the office and I'm like, I think it's time. And he's like, should I come home? And I'm like, no, don't come home. Guys, I was so focused on listening to my affirmations and to the songs that calmed me and that soothed me. I was in my mindset. I was so confident that for the first, 4 hours, I was on my own. And then around 12 o'clock, my doula came. Doulas are magic. I understand, guys, having a baby is expensive. but I promise you a doula is going to be a better investment than like that $700, $900 crib.
Probably better
I promise
than your
you.
husband.
Yeah, better than your husband. And I'm like, listen, he was such a great support. But doulas, especially having women there they live in birth, they've lived out birth, that they're there to support you. I mean,
They helped me too. Like they would tell me like, hey, why don't you go do this? Hey, why don't you help her with this?
How about
hey,
you go
why
pee?
Don't you go...
Like, you want to go to the bathroom? You haven't gone to the bathroom. Why don't you go downstairs and eat?
They were great, yeah. I loved it.
And so our first doula, Lauren, I mean, it was crazy because I was really in my head and was really starting to pick up. And as soon as she walked in, she put down her bag, she put her hands on my feet, and immediately feeling her touch, it was such a relief. It was just my whole body. So the whole point of the doula is not to birth you anything, like to birth for you or to do things all for you, but to support you in ways that you don't even realize you need. And especially right now, I think in this chaos of uncertainty and fear, having someone that you can talk to and confide in, that you can kind of let all that out, and someone during your birthing time that's going to be there to support you, to remind you to walk and to squat and to, why don't you try this? Why don't you change positions? Was really awesome. So Elijah's birth was 12 and a half hours, I think 12 hours. And so most of that day, I was birthing. And then I will say, like, I went from 0 to 9.5 centimeters without even thinking twice. Like, it was crazy. Like, I did not feel uncomfortable. Like, I was just moving along. And it isn't because I am some, special person that understands pain. I just redefined what pain would look like for me, and I focused on working on that. Now, when it came to pushing, I did have a lip. And a lip just means that you didn't dilate evenly. And so that required some extra movement. So I can tell you this, with Elijah's birth, I pushed for 2 hours, and it was the toughest 2 hours of my entire life. And I can tell you this, the second you allow fear in, the harder it's going to be. The second and I could see it, even when I was pushing, when I would get discouraged, I didn't have my hypnobabies, when I would get discouraged, I could feel it. When I got more focused, I didn't. And if you don't prepare enough kind of going into it, that can be really hard. But even though those 2 hours were the toughest 2 hours of my entire life, I experienced it all. Listen, I'm not saying this because I want to be like a cool person, like, oh, I get childbirth, I'm so strong. No, there was something that came out of me. And I'll be honest with you, I yelled, I was primal with Elijah's birth. I just let it all out. I think I would like yell really high pitched, and you'd be like, no, low. I'm like,
I can honestly say I had no idea what I was doing, what I was talking about, or anything. Like, and then any type of like knowledge I had about birth, like prior to it, when we were in it, I didn't remember. I didn't know if you would have asked me anything about anatomy, physiology, what's going on, I couldn't have answered anything for you at that moment. I was just like more of if it wasn't for the doula, I probably would have just sat in the corner, like, awkwardly by myself.
He's lying. I'm going to share our birth videos with you guys. I have Elijah's and Rosie's, but you'll see his picture. No, you were very involved. And the doula was very good in encouraging you to get involved when you were just kind of feeling overwhelmed. And so, those 2 hours were tough. Like, they were hard and they were difficult, but it still didn't take away. And I didn't understand like what was going on, but my body knew what it needed to do. And I trusted it. And a cool thing that happens when you give birth naturally is that as soon as the baby comes out, you get this like cocktail of hormones where you're like stinking high. Like, you're just on a different world. So it's crazy how amazing our bodies are in the sense of that we can go through something really, really difficult and then we get this reward. It's so ancestral and just very primal that we put in this hard work and then we get the reward of feeling this high after you give birth. And so Elijah's was really tough. I think it was very interesting because I was pushing for so long that when he finally came, We didn't know he was. I mean, I was pushing the dang kid out, and I still didn't even know he was coming. Like I didn't feel it. I was just like, oh, I gotta keep going. I gotta keep going. And then, boom. I mean, I have a picture where they're like holding it, and I'm just like, what is that? Like, just came out of me. And it was really cool. So the cool thing about having a midwife there. Okay, this is a cool thing about home birth I didn't know about. Your doula, your midwife. As you're laying there, like cuddling with your baby and your partner's with you, they're leaving your house as if they were never there. I did not know they did that. And I thought we're talking about there's stuff in the washer, their hose was gone, the sheets were changed, everything was organized back again. And so with I will say this, with Elijah, it was really interesting. He was born with a nuchal cord, so he had the umbilical cord around his neck, which about 30% of births have nuchal cords, the umbilical cord around the neck. I will say this, Elijah had some meconium too, and he was an old baby. They say he's old because like his skin was wrinkly.
His fingernails were super long.
He came 41 weeks, 4 days. Yeah. He was like, I gave birth to an old man baby. Yeah. Like when he came out, like there's no vertex. Like he was just like, what's up with his long nails,
you know? He's been here for a month.
Yeah. So again, when you have a really well-informed, educated birth team, they know, like a doula knows what you need because you've talked with them and you're processing with them. And then the midwife is looking for red flags. And so with Elijah, he had the nuchal cord. They took the cord off of his neck. And what's really interesting is that Elijah got checked and adjusted within 24 hours. He actually had issues nursing on one side. And we're doctors. We check babies all the time. But when you're new parents, you don't think about that, you know? And we're like, why isn't the baby like nursing? What's wrong? And we actually have a picture of Elijah getting adjusted. And guys, it's just like a pressure coin.
It's just about as much pressure as it holds, like to hold a dime against the skin. It's so gentle, so easy, so simple. It doesn't take a lot to be able to again adjust it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, we adjusted him, and it was boom.
Immediately he started nursing on both sides.
Turned to the other side, nursing. Yeah.
So what was really cool is that what I learned from Elijah's birth, it wasn't this walk in the park at all. Like I don't want to like tell you guys that, hey, it was just completely easy, but there's a few things that I learned from it. Number one, I'm a baddie. So are you.
Sorry, yeah.
Number two, protecting my mindset was so vitally important. Number three, creating an environment within my birthing room where I felt respected and loved and cared for and taken care of was really, really amazing. And trusting that my body knew what to do was just really, really important. And it made it very different. Like Elijah taught me that I can do hard things. Like, I mean, I knew, you know, I'm a leader. I reach out to people, I help people, but there's something that can come from conquering something you weren't sure you could do. And there's growth in that. And so right now, for everyone that's expecting a baby right now, you can do it. You can do it in any kind of environment. You can do it. But within your four walls, within where you give birth, you have to protect that. You have to. You're allowed to say, I don't want to hear the C word anymore, coronavirus, COVID. I don't want to hear it anymore. Yeah. No one talks to me about it. In my house, no one talks to me about it. You know what's going on. You don't need to worry and be scared about that.
It doesn't mean you don't care, but what it means is you have somebody that you know. I think there's no person in the world that would argue with you that you got somebody that you've got to care about more, right? And again, it's yourself and it's your baby, right? It's a lot of times all we talk about is baby, yes. But you got to talk about mom, right? And again, so you do have to protect your mindset. You know, everything else is going on out here. You can let your husband deal with that. You can let your mom, let your friends, whoever, let them deal with that, right? You deal with this here, right? And protecting your mindset, you know, taking care of your body, You know, and again, there's just no need to fill it with unnecessary fear that you can't really do anything about anyway.
Absolutely. And then Rosie's birth, so Elijah's birth, they couldn't get the birthing tub up and running. And you guys will see my birthing video. I'll share it here. There's a picture of me trying to lay in this tub that had like no water. I'm trying to get my big old belly in the water. So for Rosie's birth, the cool thing is with Hypnobabies and just working on my mindset, it's kind of like after I've been to the gym for like a couple of months, whoa, like my muscles remember what I need to do. So for Rosie's birth, y'all aren't going to believe this. Most people are like, what? I knew that pushing was difficult for me. And what I say is, like I said at the beginning of this video, you push into your fear. Mm-hmm. You push into the thing that's making you anxious and you process that. Mm-hmm. Then you affirm good things. So, hey, I'm nervous because I don't know if my husband's going to be able to be there with my birth. Well, then I need to see what provider, where I can give birth, where not only my husband can be there, but my doula can be there and my provider is knowledgeable. Mm-hmm. Then you need to do that. I don't care if you're 30 weeks, 15 weeks, or 38 weeks.
We've had patients that have literally changed at what, 37 weeks.
Yeah. So you have to,
had a great birth experience. So
yeah, and so Rosie's birth is a little crazier, funnier, but I was in my birthing time for 2 solid days. Listen to that, 2 days birthing my baby girl, and I can honestly say I did not feel pain. Like I didn't feel the idea of pain. So one thing I focused on, and Hypnobabies talks about, is feeling your pressure waves like a blood pressure cuff, like it's just squeezing in and then releasing. Mind you, this time it's my second birth, so I knew the areas that I struggled in. I knew the areas that I was uncomfortable with. I didn't ignore that. I knew that I wanted to push differently. I knew I wanted my baby to come out differently, so I didn't ignore that. I actually focused a lot of energy on that, on how I could work with my body. So for Rosie, it was another home birth. We had a completely new birth team, midwives here, a new doula, and of course, I'm never giving birth without a doula. But so with Rosie's birth, it was hot in August, and just so you guys know, I hate the heat. It sounds like I'm so miserable by the end. I am, because Elijah was 41.
She threatened me many times if we were ever pregnant again in the summer.
Yeah, so. No, it's not going to happen, and I can make sure of that because I track my fertile signs. Anyways, so Elijah was 41 weeks, 4 days. Rosie was 41 weeks. I want you guys to know, Elijah was like 8 pounds, 2 ounces. Rosie was 6 pounds, 14 ounces at almost 42 weeks, like 41 in a day or something. If someone would have scared me into birthing her at 39 weeks, at 40 weeks, and my baby was 6 pounds at birth, 14, that would have been a really bad idea. She would have been absolutely tiny. And so I know one thing about me is my births go longer. That's something that we'll prepare for. Okay, so Rosie, you were here. My best friend Rachel was here, and we started walking around the neighborhood. And guys, I'm just like, I'm huge, and I'm like squatting in the neighborhood, just like walking and squatting. And so the crazy thing is that the more I would squat, the more my pressure waves would come. So we're like, ooh, I'm like sweaty. I'm like, ooh, this is it. This is time. And so we called the doula. How did it go after we were walking?
We called the doula first, yeah.
And then she came.
She walked with us and everything. And then she felt like it was time to call
the midwives.
So we called the midwives. And like they came and checked everything out, and then basically was like, yeah.
Well, no.
This is not going to happen.
Well, before they did that, like the problem was if you can increase activity and the pressure waves pick up, but if you decrease activity and they don't continue, you're not where you think you are. So they actually sat downstairs for a couple of hours.
I think they were watching like a football game.
Yeah, and then they were like, we're going to go out to dinner. And I was like, dinner? I'm about to have a baby.
She was kind of offended.
Like, I was like, where are you going? Just watch me. That's the thing about not doulas. Doulas are there with you. Midwives, guys, they're there to make sure everything goes, good, keeps an eye on you, keeps an eye on baby. But besides that, they're like, do your thing.
Yeah,
do whatever
she
you
knew
need.
exactly what she was doing. She's like, okay, like you just we know that it's it's either happening or it's not, and we'll find out pretty soon.
Yeah. So they went out to dinner, and I'm like, okay, I gotta focus. I gotta get this going before they come back from dinner. They came back from dinner, and we lived by restaurants, so it wasn't bad. And then they come back and they walk into the room, and you can tell they're very cautious, and they're like, it's not gonna happen tonight, so just relax, and we'll come back and check on you tomorrow. Y'all, I was sitting on my exercise ball, and I was like, oh, I just started crying. And they packed up their stuff and left. And I made shepherd's pie. That was my midwife meal because for some reason I wanted shepherd's pie. And I remember crying into my shepherd's pie. And he's like, it's okay, you'll be fine. And so when I say 2 days, my pressure waves were at least 3 to 4 minutes apart. Like they were constant all day and then all night. And that's when I sat on my rocking chair as I watched him sleeping in his bed. I mean, that's when you're talking about, like, I was just sitting there, just watching him sleep because I couldn't even sleep. But then I think I ended up falling asleep.
Yeah, she fell asleep. Finally, for it was only a few hours that you fell asleep. And then, the next day we started walking again and everything. And then finally,
started picking
up again. So I think that time we called our doula because we were like, oh, we don't want to call the midwife.
We don't want to bother the midwife. And it was really crazy. So when I got into the zone, Hypnobabies has music and affirmations you can listen to. And so I'm listening, I'm in the zone. And at this point, I start noticing that the pressure's a lot stronger on my abdomen and it felt sharp, just kind of like this sharp, annoying feeling. And I remember I was in the zone and then the doula came in and she's touching me on the shoulder. And I take off my earphones and I look at her and she's like, how long have you been like this for? And I'm just like, I don't know. A few minutes. So I put my speakers on. Apparently I was breathing heavier and I was making small noises that gave her a clue that I was a lot further along than I thought. So she calls the midwife and the midwives come. It's same thing. They touch my shoulder and they're like, how long have you been like this for? And I'm like, I don't know. Just do your thing. And so I was in the zone. And I mean, guys, I don't get checked very often when it's my birthing time. Only when I'm like, okay, I want to see. Because, just because you're at 6 centimeters doesn't mean, and it took you 6 hours to get there, you can get to 10 in 30 minutes. Birthing has it's a freaky twilight zone. And so finally they checked me and I was in active birthing time. And so they told me that I can get in my pool. And I was like, no. I remember Elijah's birth, getting in too early made it take longer. So I waited a little bit longer and then finally I was like, okay, I'm going to get in the water. And as soon as I get in the water, y'all, it was amazing. It was an immediate relief. I was just hanging out. There's pictures of us laughing. And at that point, it felt so good. I was like, whatever. If I stopped my birth, I don't care. I feel good right now. And so we'd sit in the water and just talk and joke around. And then I would go into my head when I felt a pressure wave. But it felt like it was 10 minutes apart. And then as I'm sitting there, I look down and my water breaks. And I'm really confused because I'm like, what? What is that? I'm looking at, because I didn't feel like I was still progressing. I was so relaxed in the water that I didn't know I was progressing. And so I look at the water and I'm like, what is that? And I looked at you, I'm like, what is that? What do you think that is? And you were like,
I think your water broke. I mean, I knew what it was. But even when we finally had Rosie, you didn't even know that your baby came out. I had to tell you that too. So.
Yeah, so after that happened, I kept on progressing and I started bearing down and I started trying to push naturally. So they got me out of the water and turned out I had another lip. So I had already told her that with my first birth, that ended up meaning 2 hours worth of birthing time. So she made me change my Hypnobabies pushing track and she had me, okay, this might, just get your mind ready. And so at that point, when she told me that, I was like, you know what? If this takes another 4 hours, it is what it is. I trust my body. And so I started getting into my head, this baby isn't coming right now, and it's okay if this baby isn't coming right now. So 2 days of my birthing time, I didn't feel any pain or discomfort until she had me do squats to get the lip taken care of.
Well, she set up like a stool, and it wasn't just squats. It was like, because she knew, which I mean, I think this is so amazing. Like, what an amazing, midwife to be able to put this thing together. But since she knew the first difficulty we had with Elijah with that lip, she knew to even it out. They got like a stool, and they had her put one leg up and then do some type of squat specifically like that, and then again another one, and like, I mean, all of a sudden it was like a game changer.
No, we went when they checked me before.
Like immediately.
They had me do a birthing stool. So it felt like 15 minutes, but I think she said it was like 20, 30 minutes.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like that to me at all.
It was faster to you?
Yeah, I thought it was like 5 minutes. I mean, she literally did like,
obviously
she like did this squat thing on a stool. I just thought it was incredible. The fact that somebody could even know, like, oh, you've got a lip here, let's just put the stool up here. I'm going to have you bend just like this.
Yeah.
I was blown away. I'm like sitting there like, is this really going to work?
5 minutes.
I don't know.
Okay, it was not. I felt it. It was not 5 minutes. But she had me do the birthing stool. Then she had me squat down with both my feet, and then she had me squat lunge on my left leg, lunge on my right leg. Apparently, this is a real thing, and she ended up teaching it to other midwives. I read some literature and some things on it that doing the squatting and lunging will help with lipping. And so what ended up happening is, before she had me do those exercises, she checked me and the baby was not engaged. Like, the baby's head was nowhere. After she made me do all these exercises, I got pissed. And I looked at her and I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm getting in the water, and if the baby doesn't come, the baby doesn't come. I was misattitude. And so as I walked to the tub that's in my room, I put one leg over, I put the other leg in, and then the baby, it felt like the baby went bloop straight into my butt. Like, that's what it felt like. The baby's head was in my butthole. And I got in the water and I looked at my midwives and I was like, the baby's here. This isn't good.
That's
the
what she kept saying.
Baby's here.
This isn't good.
Yeah.
And we're like, I looked at our midwife, like, and we just kind of looked. We're like, no, that's a great thing. That's like what we want. She's like, no, it's the baby's here. Like, what's
you
going
told me the baby. And the photographer actually caught me holding the midwife's arm like this, just looking at her, because I'm like, you told me the baby wasn't coming. And she's like, okay, you're not making any sense. And so her daughter, who was the assistant, looked behind me with the flashlight, and she was like, oh yeah, there's a head there. And everyone's shocked because the baby, I mean, I was crossing my legs. I was like, the baby can't come. You said the baby's not supposed to be here. And I remember looking at him with this shock on his face. I'm like, this is a good thing. Just
I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, just let the baby. It obviously is coming on its own. Like, let the baby come out.
So we didn't find out what we were having with either one. We didn't know Elijah was a boy. We didn't know Rosie was a girl. So I was like, fine, I guess I should push this baby out.
No. Boom.
Pushed her out. And I remember looking down in the water, seeing this little alien baby looking back at me. And I was so shocked because I didn't think the baby was coming that I left her in there. I was just like looking at her. And he's like, grab your baby.
I'm like, there's your baby. Grab your baby.
And so I stick my hand in the water and I look at it. And they're like, what is it? And I'm like, a girl? Is that a girl? Like, I couldn't even tell. And that was Rosie. And so Rosie, again, she had really, because she came down so quickly, the whole process of pushing a baby, like, the most annoying thing about pushing baby is that the baby can go down and then come back up. Go down and then come back up. And it's really annoying to you because you're like, get out of here. But it's such an amazing, beautiful process because the cranial bones can come, kind of come together as the baby's coming out. the lungs. Kaylee's like, now I'm sobbing. You love birth. Guys, we got Kaylee and Jody that came on here. Local midwives in Chattanooga. Y'all have to have one. I told you guys, having a doula is a better investment than probably 90% of the things you buy a baby.
It's the best thing I've invested in a long time. I'm serious.
Not our kids' education. No.
A doula was a much better decision. No joke at all. Absolutely.
So Rosie she had very fast respiration. So I want you guys to understand this. For both of my home births, I had complications. I say that. But I had things that the midwives had to address. And they don't wait around.
Dude, they did awesome.
Till there's a big they have an eye on you, they have an eye on the baby, and they jump in and they take care of things. And I'm in awe of what a birthing team does between the doula and the assistants and the midwives. And so Rosie had fast respiration. They gave her oxygen. And another little miracle story, we literally see her chest going very quickly. And so what happens is as the baby's coming out, the lungs will kind of compress fluid out of it in the birthing canal as you're pushing a baby out. Rosie engaged and came out so quickly that she didn't have that happen. And you, again, checked her, adjusted her. And again, an adjustment for a baby is as much pressure as putting a coin against the wall. And everyone in that room is watching Rosie, and the photographer takes a picture as he's doing it. She releases a smile. I have a picture of her smiling, and all of a sudden she went, and her respiration just really calmed down. And that one was a really funny experience. And so we wanted to share our stories because a lot of people are like, but what happens if there's an emergency? Yeah, dude. That's why the midwife brings her oxygen, her Pitocin, they're good at what they do, man.
Yeah. I think sometimes maybe people who've never been educated on home births and midwives and doulas. I think a lot of times maybe in their head they think that because it's not in a hospital or it's not performed by a medical doctor that this is just like old school, nothing scientific about this, nothing really modern about this, and we've had to advance this just like everything else. And I'll tell you right now, man, that our experiences with our midwives and doulas is, man, these people know, I think, even more about birthing than most medical doctors do. And the reason for that is because there's an art to birth. Yeah. So in the medical field, there's no more art. It's literally let's check off boxes as we go down, based on what I learned, in school from my professor, as opposed to actually seeing all of these different birth apprenticeship, being able to actually, see the differences in birthing times, understanding how powerful the body really is, and then letting birth happen, and then being there if and when needed. And again, I'll tell you right now, in ours, it was like, they jumped in there. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they did it in such a calm fashion. I can't even believe it. Like when they were dealing with like Elijah, and you, post birth, because of the fibroids and things like that. It was like we didn't even know it was happening because they were so calm and they knew exactly what they were doing. Same thing, with Rosie's birth, when they needed to do some things, they literally were so calm and they knew exactly what they were doing.
Do some things. They had to stitch me up.
Yeah. It was
stitching up, and this is the thing. A lot of women lose a lot of blood, especially after their first birth. So having someone that's going to take care of you and encourage you, it's just really important. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. A birth team matters. And if you don't have someone, this is what I say. And so we'll wrap it up. I'll give how about you start first and I'll wrap it up. What do you think you would tell? He wasn't sure about doing this video with me.
I'm like, cause at the same time, I'm like, okay, like you women out there that are listening to this are like, why is this guy here talking about birth right now? He's never experienced anything.
Oh yeah, the most painful part of your birth lasted only 5 minutes.
Yeah, I know.
30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll tell it from my perspective as
a dude.
As a dude. I'll put it this way. I was blown away by the strength of my wife and by how amazing your body was literally designed to give birth to this child. I was blown away by the whole process because I'll tell you right now, it is only a phenomenal creator can create something that is so full of just absolutely. It just maybe some
you're so amazed you're speechless.
Doubt. No, but like there's like maybe points during that where there's some doubt and points where there's some uncomfortability that leads into euphoria and this just amazing, just brand new thing that's right here that you just gave birth to. You just grew a human being. Like I was just blown away by the whole process of it and how strong and powerful you were through the process. How amazing our birthing team was, and then also too, like it was just so nice to have them there because it allowed me to feel comfortable right before they left us with this child that I'm supposed to now take care of. But through it all, that was the biggest thing I took from it. And then I also took from it as well too, man. I can't imagine some of the the women out there, and this is why we wanted to do this video, that like Dr. Rebecca had people that poured into her with this. Dr. Rebecca had, books that she read to work on this. Dr. Rebecca had, heard that, to do things like hypnobabies. She had me to work on protecting her mindset. But there's so many women out there that don't have that and that are told nothing but fear and nothing but, these bad stories. And they're told that, their bodies are too small or they're not designed to be able to, give birth to this size baby, or that, this problem and that problem.
Be afraid of the virus. Be afraid of this. Be afraid of that. And
I think for me, it was just like, man, I want every single woman on this planet to know that their body, if they choose to do this, is designed beyond our imagination to be able to actually give birth to a human being and actually be happy afterwards and enjoy life afterwards and be able to take care of this thing. I was just absolutely blown away.
What would you say too if there's a spouse that's hesitant to just doesn't know how to support their wife, or like hesitant about hypnobabies, hesitant about changing providers, or even hesitant about home birth, like a spouse that just isn't quite 100% on board with their wives?
I would say this. I would say, number one, it's okay to be like uncomfortable and to be like a little nervous about what decision your spouse is thinking about, whether it's home birth, midwives, all of these doulas, whatever it is. It's okay to be a little nervous about it, but it is not okay to not be open-minded. Right? Because you have to remember this, you're not birthing the baby, right? That's not what you're doing, right? So it really, in the end, it's your spouse that's kind of deciding what is it that she wants. And again, it means that we should be there to support that process and then be open-minded about it. Why learn about it, right? Don't just hear from one side either. Like one of the most annoying things, I asked my doctor about, midwife. Are you kidding me? Like, you can't ask a medical doctor about a midwife. Like, it's like asking, a pharmacist about a chiropractor. It just doesn't work that well. So, bottom line is, be open-minded. If you're open-minded about this, it's amazing what you can learn, and it's also amazing what you can come across. And again, I think that's the first step in it. Is just be open-minded, and then also too, if you got a question, reach out to me, man. I'll be honest with you. I'll let you know. There was several things I was like uncomfortable with at first, and then I was open-minded about it. I looked at the literature. I read books. Again, I was open-minded enough to actually say, hey, you know what? I'm going to learn about this because it meant a lot to you.
Yeah. That's
I don't
that's
do
good.
that. I don't do that with everything in life. So
there you
but
go.
I did that with
Share it with your partner. Just have them skip to the end. You probably just want to hear about me pushing out babies
I
and
just said
needing
the
to get
most important
stitched up.
thing anyway.
Just have them skip all the way towards the end and listen to what he says.
Yeah.
And then for me, Chelsea, I saw your message on there about the Hypnobabies. There's a Hypnobabies support group on Facebook. It's like a national support group. I think there's like a couple thousand members in there. That's a good place to start. And then I think I'll post the Hypnobabies link here if you guys want to look at that. It's just a link that I'm going to share with you guys where you can do a class. I know here in Chattanooga, well, I don't know if you can do classes right now, but that's okay. It's better to do it at home in your tub.
I'm sure
anyways.
they have they might even have like virtual classes
Maybe,
right now. I don't
but
know.
you can just get the book. But this is what I would like to say to all the women out there. And again, just through my own birth and how I'm encountering and encouraging women, listen, it doesn't matter where you're at. You've got this. Like, I promise you, you have this. Like, if you've had a birth before, there you go. And even if this is your first birth, like second, third, or fourth, you can look back on the last, decades of your life, couple decades, and you can look at the difficult things you never thought you could conquer. You can think about times where you were really fearful or scared and you did it, and you're standing here today, which means in the midst of a lot of uncertainty within hospitals about what they're allowing or what they're not allowing, you need to stand firm in what you need to be well. It matters. It's not just about baby being healthy. That's a duh. Everyone wants a healthy baby. No one wants an unhealthy baby. Everyone wants a safe baby. All providers, every group that you're going to work with, they want that. But the thing that gets forgotten about is the mom. And you matter. So you do what you need to feel well, to feel at peace, and to feel comfortable. Not just because your baby feels it, but because you feel it. Because you experience it. And you want to create an environment where you are well. So if you fire a provider, find a provider that's knowledgeable, that's going to support you, and that's going to look out for you. If you have to change the environment of where you're giving birth, you can find people around you that will still give you a secure, safe birth. But even if you give birth in the hospital, becoming knowledgeable, I mean, I know this virus is going around and all of that, but for a fact right now they're saying it's not even affecting babies. I mean, the baby gets it, might even make your baby stronger. We don't even know.
Yeah.
But you have to stand firm in what you need to give birth the way you want. The second thing is, I tell this to every woman I sit down with, sit down and picture what your birthing day will look like. I'll tell you this, it's probably not going to go perfect. When Rosie took 2 days to come, I practiced in my head, she was coming in 4 hours. So when I hit the 4 hour and then the 6 hour and then the 8 hour and then 48 hour mark, I had to get my attitude in check. But I still...
She took it out with me.
I did not. I took it out with my shepherd's pie.
Yes.
Anyways, I still focused on that. So what was the book that you recommended? So A Guide to Childbirth with Ina May Gaskin, The Guide to Childbirth. And so the way she broke up the book is the first half of the book is any and every procedure that can happen at a hospital. Because you have to understand, if you're giving a hospital birth, they have protocols unless you change the protocol. And it doesn't matter. Everyone's going to get the same protocol. It doesn't matter if you're this or this. It doesn't matter if you're safer. This is how things go. So if you become knowledgeable with everything that happens, that's what I really, really enjoyed about the book. Then the second half of the book is a bunch of birth stories. So I'm going to give you a disclaimer. Ina May started off on this like hippie community. So some of those birth stories, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like some of them are like,
It's good just to get positive.
wow,
Whatever.
that was interesting. Like the stuff they were like, I just filled myself up and then gave myself a baby or something. Like it's really cool though, because you can see that there's people that just came and wanted a birth, and then there's people that were just birthing out in the woods, and then there was people that had to be transferred to the hospital but still had a beautiful birth.
And I was just gonna say, because Ina May and her, the farm is right down 20 minutes from where my parents live, and she for so long was so well known at like literally the hospital there, was it Murray County Hospital, loved her. Like they were like, man, they knew she knew what she was doing. She was like literally, I mean, that woman was the best of the best. And she was supported both in the midwife realm and the medical realm.
I'm gonna recommend this book too if I can open it. Do not get What to Expect When You're Inspecting if you're a new mom, because that'll make you think that you're gonna boil your baby if you have a bath. They're so scary. But this is gonna be really weird to show you. Can you guys see it? Mama Natural. This is a week by week guide. I got it. It's super cute and has a lot of really great knowledge in it. And it talks about how to prepare and these natural things and how to prepare for like if you get transferred and all this stuff. But I would recommend you deserve to picture your day, and it matters. And I tell this to people, you need to ask your provider direct questions. It isn't, well, what do you think if I go past my due date? And they're like, well, we'll have to wait and see. That usually means they're not going to let you go past. They're not comfortable with that. But if they say, if you go past, this is what we'll do. We'll just check you, and if you're fine, then we'll let you go. Then how do you feel about constant monitoring versus being able to walk around? How do you feel about me getting in the water? Like, what are your thoughts on that? And you need to get direct answers about that. Mm-hmm. I also wanted to share one more thing that I thought was really, really interesting. I just came across. There's ways to check your hospital to see kind of what they do in regards to, is it a high C-section rate? I will say both hospitals here in Chattanooga have a C-section rate of like 23%, which is higher than the World Health Organization. And the website's called Leapfrog. I'm pretty sure it's called Leapfrog.
Can we post a link afterwards?
Yep, I'll post it afterwards.
We'll post a link for you.
So protect your mind, find a good birth team, and don't be afraid with even if you birth in the hospital, it doesn't matter what's going on. Heck, bring your own hand sanitizers and wipe that place down. Make sure it's clean. I'm sure they sanitize it. Bring what you need.
You can find it.
But the truth is this: as long as you have a good birth team, you advocate to have your spouse there, your midwife there. It doesn't matter what's happening outside of your four walls. You get to create this oasis, this place where you can dim the lights, where you can put on your music, where you can be in your zone, and nothing else matters. I promise you, nothing else matters as long as you have a good support system. So even if you give birth in the hospital, you can be in control of that as long as you prepare your mind, protect your mind, and you have a good birth team. So
and reach out to us if you have any questions, for sure.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that was awesome.
I like how I was talking so much about the birth story, and you're like, yep.
It was good.
Yep. Yeah, it only took an hour, no big deal. I slept, I ate. Anyways, thanks guys for tuning in, and have a good night.
We'll see you guys. Bye.